Johnson, and this is Focus on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palava, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Boakai, to educate, elevate, and promote. Talk about home affairs, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information, history, talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another edition of Tough Talking Thursday on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jar, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition of Tough Talking Thursday, we're going to be talking tough on the following issues: the removal attempt, or some say the plot, to remove House Speaker Funati Koffa. President Boakai delivered the keynote of the major food speech in Italy. Also, Samuel Tweah, that's former finance minister Samuel Tweah, is giving his side of the story concerning the death of Barton Nyeswa. That's Emmanuel Barten Nyeswa. Those are the issues we're going to be covering tonight on Tough Talking Thursday. Let me welcome Dr. Abdullah Dukle, the man who has experience working for Liberian presidents. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Dennis. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Let me welcome Dr. Clarence R. Pearson. He is an author and the neo-progressive commentator. Welcome, Dr. Pearson.
Thank you, Dennis. It's a pleasure to be on the show tonight. Hi to all the esteemed panelists and our viewers out there.
When it's about governance, we want to talk to Mr. Admet Sherlif. He's our governance advisor. Welcome, Dr. Soon-to-be Dr. Admet Sherlif. It's good to have you on the show.
Thank you, Dennis. I'm happy to be here.
Doctor.
Yes, happy to be here. Let's do it.
Thank you. Let me welcome all our viewers from across the globe. When it is Thursday, it's time to talk tough. And we're going to be talking tough on some issues. We have 4 issues here. We're going to be discussing 3, and the other one when we have time. I want us to start with President Boakai in Italy. He gave the keynote advice. He said, on the topic, good food today, good food tomorrow. That's the topic on that President Boakai, he was in Italy. I think he's heading back now, where he delivered that speech. Let me start with Dr. Dukle here. What's the credibility that President Boakai brings to this subject matter?
Well, he's a new president, minister, former official in charge of agriculture, so therefore he has something to say about it. And he has made agriculture one of the central points of his policy. So let's see how, he's going to affect what he brings. I wouldn't say what he brings, but, how he set the agenda forward. But unfortunately, though, if you look at the agriculture sector with $4 million in the budgets, it doesn't seem to be a priority when you compare that to $12 million for the mansion, executive mansion. So that's the disconnect. But it's a good thing. I mean, you have to sell the country image. You got to sell his priorities. He has to go around and talk to people, make contacts. But I think charity begins at home.
Dr. Pearson, I had an Uncle John was married to 4 wives. When they have any problem and people come to judge the case, he asks you, how many women you get? You say 1. You say, get outside. How many you get? 2. Get outside. Is President Boakai qualified to speak on this subject about good food when people in Liberia don't have good food?
Dennis, thanks for the question. That's where I usually tell people that these forums and meetings like these are not intended, quote unquote, so to speak, to go and give empty words. People go to these meetings. Majority of the time, it is sector-driven, technical, concept-driven, and stuff like that. When you go to address such a forum, especially given the notice that the executive mansion put up, that President Boakai will be highlighting the issue of food insecurity and providing conversation over strategies to address it. Like what Dr. Dukley said, it was laughable because we're not a good model to mirror that. And I don't see how you go. And when I look at the speech during the program, people were just sitting looking at President Boakai. He's just narrating. He didn't give anything substantive that a forum could benefit from, other than to just provide the same rhetoric anyone will provide from anywhere, having a just empty talk show. I close on this opening by saying, Dennis, don't get me wrong. I don't disagree with people when they say Liberia has to sell itself. But in this current world, with the diversity of geopolitical reach that we have, no president needs to travel across the world only to say, I'm there to sell myself. You can be right in the executive mansion in Liberia and still sell yourself and sell your country. It depends on what you're doing back home that will attract people to your country. You must have something to offer in order to be able to go out there and fetch. And lastly, I would say, look, listen, it's sad. I think our Ministry of Agriculture would have been the best representation of us there, because he has an agenda for agriculture, and he could have gone there to just speak to the issue. The president has no authority over that subject matter.
Thank you, Mr. Salih. I want to ask the same question. Back home, you see people who the organizer of this forum, are they like people in Liberia who go into someone who can read and write for book medicine?
I think, Dennis, I think that's a wrong reading of the purpose of the meeting and the president's participation. First of all, President Boakai was invited, and listen, there's a attorney general here in the state where I live who likes to say, people work with those who show up. If you show up, you're invited, you show up, you participate in the conversation, you engage with people, people remember you. People remember how you show up. Not only do they remember how you show up, but they also do remember that you were there and that you had something to say. Look, we have to try something different. We've been criticizing our country. We've been putting ourselves down for a long time. Yes, we have terrible, terrible challenges back home. I'm not here to try to minimize the state of affairs in our country. I mean, even the youngest child who lives in Liberia feels the brunt of the challenges, the enormity of the problems we have in the country. But that is a country that has potential. I think Liberia has the largest sort of virgin forest volume in West Africa, if I'm not getting that wrong. If you look at our topography, if you look at the potentials we have to contribute. And now remember, everything has changed nowadays in the 21st century, even food security, conversations around food security. If you look at how the UN SDG is positioned, these are innovative ways of thinking about how do we develop, how do we work with different sectors, how do we collaborate. And that's why this president was invited. I think he probably was the only high level officials or head of state in that place who had been Minister of Agriculture before, who had actually worked in an agriculture sector and has a hands-on experience. So aside from the country's potential, aside from what we can contribute ourselves as a country, as a nation, the president also has personal experience with that. So we can sit there and criticize him for traveling, criticize him for showing up, criticize him for saying something in his speech. But I want to say, you ought to give an administration that is new, that is really trying to put a house in order, that is going to places to say, look, we're here, here's what we have, here's what we can contribute. It's not just about showing up, it's about value proposition. And that's what you look for when somebody shows up and somebody's invited and they show up and contribute.
And Dr. Douglas, I know you want to respond to Mr. Sally, but let me add this one, because the president show up and the president is saying, hey, Liberia stand ready. Here's what the president said. Liberia stands ready to contribute to this global movement for food security by sharing our vision and experiences in building an inclusive, resilient, transformative agri-food system. Then he talked about what we got. Liberia is a vital net carbon sink, absorbing more greenhouse gases than it emits, and probably contains over 40% of what Africans' remaining forests. President Boakai is still not telling us, what he's going to do about this of good food and food insecurity. Is like, okay, our place that we get rich soil. Is that the reading too?
I think I don't want to respond to Ahmed because I don't think we have any contradiction. I said, it's good for Boakai to show up to sell the country's image. He's a new president, and he's trying to tell people my priority is agriculture. Where I differ with him is, we all know the narrative. Liberia is rich. We got all this potential, but we don't do anything about it. But if you are Minister of Agriculture, you spend your whole life talking about agriculture, rice production, and you become president. In your first budget, the money to keep you running your office is 4 times bigger than the national budget for agriculture. I'm just saying, you have to set your priorities straight. You have to act like your priorities. You don't sell those things. You can't go, my office, I need 200 people to work 24 hours a day. That's why we need $12 million. But agriculture, farmers will take care of it. That's not the point. The point is not that Boakai is not doing the right thing. By going there, yes, of course, he's the only president who's there today because probably other people send the Minister of Agriculture. Like every year, Madam Salif sent the Minister of Agriculture. But one time she went because she was coming to the US at the same time. So we stopped in Rome and then she went and gave the keynote speech. So that's not the point. There's no problem about him selling Liberia image. The problem is, I think the disconnect for me is just like the drug issue in New York. When you talk about drug combating, at the time, we had suspended the 3 high-level people at the LDA. And that was a disconnect. So we had to point this thing out to our friends so they make corrective measures as they right speeches, as they make policy decisions. Say, hey, you know what? There's a disconnect between what you say here and what you're doing at home. And what you do at home is what is more important.
May I interject quickly, Dennis, to that point? Well, precisely though, that's the point. I agree that we're agreeing, right? The budget envelope issue that Liberia faces all sectors. If you look at all sectors, you talk to education people, they tell you, say, we have minuscule of what we should be having as a budget. You talk to the health sector people, they say we don't have what
look at the increase in the presidential affairs, Mr. Salif.
Yeah, you have to run the government. The presidential affairs runs the government. Part of going to these places too, you're going there to look for innovative ways of increasing opportunities for your country, for the sectors, right? We have to begin to say positive things about Liberia and believe in Liberia and believe that we can really think big and be visionaries and not just talk, but look for ways, creative, innovative ways to really act and bring about
Yeah, but
transformation of the country.
we don't disagree. We nobody disagree with those things.
Yeah, but then somebody
You're
goes to
preaching
a
to the
forum.
choir. You're preaching to the choir.
I agree,
Nobody
that's
is
the
bad
case.
mouthing the government. We're not saying never thinking about the government. We're here to
So,
discuss Liberian issues. And Liberian issue is the president goes to Rome, make a big speech about agriculture. It's beautiful, good selling the image of the country. And I'm saying you have not shown that interest in your national budget. And we need to have that discussion. Just like he spoke about the drug issue in New York in his speech, but at the same time, he had suspended 3 young men from the jail for 4 months without, telling anybody what's happened to them. So those are the disconnects we are talking about. This nobody is castigating Boakai or the government, but we have to say these little things. It's not about what we want for the country. We all want the same thing. We all want the same thing for the country. Don't doubt that. We all want to support this government to win. But we have to show the contradictions as we talk to our friends.
Dr. Pearson, before Mr. Salif come in, Dr. Pearson, do you see contradictions?
Listen. I'm one of those who tell people, right? If President Boakai, anybody do something good, I would say it, right? I have a big problem with people who try to make the president feel like he's doing something when he's not doing the right thing. I was one of those who vehemently criticized the president when he traveled from Liberia right after he won the elections in November, and instead of staying home to ensure a smooth and effective transition, he came to the United States and taking pictures in Rhode Island, acting a humble, and the transition process failed, miserably failed. Now we see the president is not even in the country to govern well. We see a lot of misrule happening where the president is out of the country and he's not even taking decisions that are effective for running the country. Like Dr. Dukley is saying, you cannot be going out there to speak about agriculture and addressing food security when you are recasting your budget and downgrading agriculture budget that is already not sufficient. You cannot even feed yourself. You said you work in the field of agriculture. Your country for over 177 years cannot even feed yourself. Our country is more insecure when it comes to food security than any other country in West Africa. We are the second poorest country in West Africa, Dennis. The 8th poorest Africa in the world, a country in the world. What are we talking here? President Boakai should stay home and focus on governing well. And like I agree, it was even one thing. Innovative governance, be innovative. How can you raise local revenue? How can you stop the bleed in our economy? How can you manage what we already have? No, it doesn't make no sense for the president to be out of the country and DA is not functioning properly because the president cannot put his head to the work, and the guys are fighting at a ministry of public works. The president is not home to put his head to the work, and then the legislature is there going helter scatter. His vice president trying to remove Speaker Koffa, which is a whole different story we're going to talk about. And the president, and we'll hear again tomorrow that he doesn't know anything about what is going on. How can his vice president be taking actions? He is absent. It goes back to what we're saying. The president is putting his worst foot forward. Dennis, there is huge contradiction here. And President Boakai needs to come to reality that he's not governing. Dennis, he's not. And he's no authority on agriculture and food security globally. No, I disagree.
Mr. Salif, you can conclude on this.
Well, look, I think we all agreed in the beginning, and I'm in agreement that the challenges in the country is if you want to take any sector, you want to take any institution, it's not just the DEA, and one does not really have to be on the ground to appoint people and get them working, get them being effective at their jobs, right? Presidents don't necessarily have to be at their office, at the executive mansion every day to make sure that the country runs and runs well. And that this idea that anyone who does something that is not becoming of their office or meets the standards of their office
Dennis, that information is not correct. The president has to be in the country to run the country effectively. Mr. Duclier, Dr. Duclier can attest to the fact that a president being out of the country for more than 5 days is a problem. With first-hand information.
You say that? I mean,
Yeah, you froze a little bit, Mr. Salih. I want you to.
Yeah, but then this clown said something I didn't hear, so I was in flight. So he said something.
Saying that the presence of the president is important in the country, and
of course. Look, it's about.
I think the problem is.
With due respect,
okay, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Yes, you look at the legislature, you touch on that. Wow, the fracas that happened today, shameful, disgraceful, we will come to that, right? A separate branch of government. But that speaks to what? The mentality of the people, how the people behave in the country. Those who are supposed to be our leaders, our political leaders, they're behaving like children, not seeking the welfare of the people of the country, but themselves. Similarly, in the executive, you have people who are cabinet officials, who are cabinet levels, who are fighting among themselves. Why are people, becoming fisticuffs? Because they're fighting over what benefits themselves, not for the people. They're not going into public service for the sake of public service itself, but they're going there for self-aggrandizing purposes, for personal, selfish purposes. Until we can get beyond that, I don't care who is the president, you will see these things happening. These are sort of larger issues. The budget envelope issue. You don't even have a budget that's just spending on itself. It's a recurrent cost budget. It's a very transaction cost budget. The government is transacting the government itself. That's what the budget is about. You don't have budget to truly run agriculture, to run education, to run the health sector and build roads and invest in the public sector. You do not have that. It's a major problem for the whole country. And so how do we go beyond that is the question where innovation comes in, where creativity comes in. Until we do that, we'll be here again 5 years from now, 10 years from now, having these conversations.
Mr. Salih, before you end, so here's the thing, right? Because I see the aspiration. He said at the meeting, you talk about the purpose of the meeting, right? He said our vision for sustainable agriculture and food security is simple but ambitious. It requires that we purposefully invest in sustainable value chain that promote agricultural productivity, reduce food loss, enhance processing capability, improve market access, and develop inclusive agribusiness models that empower smallholder farmers, women, and youth. Where is President Boakai doing these things?
Well, and the thing is, okay, so I'm not an agricultural specialist, but when I work for a major donor government, I work on agriculture portfolio and those who are experts in that field. They talk about value chain, right? And they talk about value creation. When they talk about value chain, they're looking at from cultivating, from ensuring that there's maximum yields, to processing, to storage, to transportation, to market. Right, all of those that happen along the line. You can take any of our staples, say cassava, for instance. How do you turn cassava into a sort of productive crop that people can really use beyond just making, one particular aspect that we know for our nutrition? Well, then they'll tell you, well, there are constraints, there are binding constraints to create value chains activities from the farm to the market. Electricity, storage problems, transportation, roads. So there are all kinds of interlinking challenges that go beyond.
Mr. Salih, sorry to interrupt you. President Boakai is in power now. He's still talking as if those are just aspirations. What is he doing about these things?
Right. It shouldn't be a monologue now. That we yell.
Okay, all right. So go to Pearson. Let me tell you what's doing about them now.
You
all say disconnect. It's not just disconnect, but is he doing anything when it comes to agriculture?
When you do some agriculture, I would say the only place I would talk, I would agree with Salif is probably it's not his budget, although he recast the budget, he still did not put his priorities in it. But that if he had done the opposite, taking $1 million from his own account and giving to agriculture, and taking $2 million from the legislature and giving to education, and taking $2 million from the judiciary and give it to LU, then we say, but he did the opposite. He took it from the smaller, needy people to give it to the big shots.
Even
I
down to
work at
the
a mansion. When you talk about it,
even down to Moda car. He said the car too expensive. Give it to me.
yeah, well, but they actually spend $1 million.
No, that's not true.
Yeah, but he said for the guests, for president
Yeah,
guests.
it's for VIP guests of the government. That's not.
What does that mean?
Yeah, it's for the presidency anyway. President can put anybody. They can put a card in there if he wants to. That's not a problem. I think that the mansion. Sometimes we have. Maybe the mansion should be looked at again. In terms of what the full workforce that is really needed there, and $12 million is it's okay, but Boakai disconnect. The disconnect is between the policy that he wants to implement and the things that make him say. You see, that's the problem. And, you could say, oh, it's a simple communication problem. No, it's not. You could say, you can't put this in my speech because we haven't done this yet. We haven't reached this far. Because when you talk about, a food, production chain, hey, you plant potato greens, you cut the leaves, you wash it, you put it through a processor, you put it in a plastic bag, you cut it, put it in a plastic bag, you put it in the market, people buy it so the women don't spend 2 hours cutting potato green and cut their hands. And then everybody got a job in the process. These are little things you do. You can do it. You don't need $1 million to do it. But that's like, if you work in agriculture, these are the little things you see. As you talk about, what do you do with, the cassava? China buys more cassava now than anybody else in the world. So I think we need to address the disconnect.
Thank you. Flomo say I'm lying. It's because President Boakai, the car is 96,000. Boda got fired because of that car. President Boakai said, "Give it to me. I'll put my gas in it. You're too small for you alone to be having this car." Dr. Pearson, you're lying here?
No, you're not lying. Let me clarify something. Listen, in my line of work, right? In my line of work, your attractive CV does not appeal to me. Your rhetoric on what you aspire to do does not appeal to me. It's your productivity, your output. What have you done? Whatever little things you've managed or taken care of. How can I see a trace of productivity in your work? You cannot tell me, Sir President Boakai, banning agriculture before you have vast knowledge in agriculture, and Liberia is still jittering when the Lebanese people tell you, say, "Oh, we're not bringing rest tomorrow." The whole country goes into chaos. What sense does that make to me? What number of knowledge President Barton has in agriculture that when Lebanese men say they carry the rest price up tomorrow, there's a conflict in the country? What sense does that knowledge have to me? It has no sense, Mr. Jah. What sense does it have to me for President Barton to go to a room and go talk about logistical support, maybe supply chain management, everything, and he can't even get to Foya on road to bring a bag of cassava from Foya to Monrovia at this time we're speaking? What sense does that make to me? You must, like the Dr. Drew is saying, you must have demonstrated a practical, display of that knowledge beneficial to the country. Then you can base on that to talk to the global community. It does not make jive makes no sense to me at all.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us, this is Tough Talking Thursday. And the next thing we're going to talk tough on is what's going on in the legislature. Today, it was complete chaos. I don't know how to describe it. In fact, the lawmakers, they went prophet key when they were in the kerfuffle. Dr. Pearson, I want to start with you. How do you put in words what is obtaining at the legislature? They are trying to remove House Speaker Funati Koffa under the Unity Party government of President Salif. I think 2 or 3 of them removed.
Yeah,
we've seen this again. What's going on here?
And Tyler and who else?
I think the one pro tem.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Pearson, what's happening?
Yeah, I think it's a troubling day for us. And I left what I was doing in my office, and I had to take my pen and paper and write the U.S. ambassador and write to my friends I know across the other places, including the UN, the AU, ECOWAS. But what I try to figure out today when the whole stuff are going on is what do they want to achieve? And then what do they stand to achieve? The only thing that I thought I could put my finger on was that this would have been the third time the Boakai administration would have tried to get rid of Nanti Koffa. We saw that they tried to depose him by going to the court. It didn't work. To stop him from running, it didn't work. We saw that they tried to use some scam again with financial inducement. What a guy named representing the Koluba exposed, and then it went down quiet. And then today again, we saw it close to being achieved. So the only thing I can see is the money. The only thing I can see is the money. Does President Boakai really wants to have the full control of the legislature as well as the executive branch of government to do as he will?
You are linking this plot to President Boakai. That's what you're doing.
But it is obvious. It is obvious from the fact I just referenced 3 attempts. This is the 3rd attempt. The first attempt was Unity Party when did try to go to the courts to get Speaker Koffa not to contest for the speakership. And in addition to that, we saw where money was trying to change hands again. Yaka Koruba blew alarm. And then today we see them going after it again. But CDC stands to gain nothing from this transaction. So who do I look to? You want to look for where the interest lies, that who's going to benefit. And I don't see how that the CDC is going to benefit from moving Speaker Koffa and putting a fella there who is also from Lofa County, a Kissy man, the nephew or the cousin or whoever of President Boakai. Well, and now all of our government agencies, I was one of those who battle you here, John, and say I didn't see ethnicity as a problem in governance once people qualify. But now almost every sector of our government right now, primary sector, especially in the economic sector and the security, is covered by Lufians. So what are we trying to do here? What are we trying to achieve here? It does make no sense to me. And I think it's just because of the money. Those guys are just, these guys are just hungry and greedy. And I think that's why they were going after the money. And that's what I can, maybe I will learn from Duke here on this one, but I don't see the motive here.
Mr. Salif, we saw one lawmaker come out and say, hey, I disguised myself, went there, and they are giving 15,000 as a good faith money. If the plan is carried out, there's balance 10,000, right? And so, and I think they have 47 representatives. So 47 times 15,000 is big money here, even though the money dirty. But what really is playing here? Is it politics? Is it 2029? Is it? But the money factor that is involved, the money is just too much.
It's all of the above. The money laundering culture in our economy, in our country, in the body policy, is one thing that we have to fix. Because if we don't, the country will continue to be unstable the way it is. I don't see how maybe other things Unity Party tried to do, but this particular one seems to me, and I'm still learning, at least speaking for myself, some of the objectives behind what we saw today. It seems that people are trying to simply avoid accountability. They do not want to be audited because people who are even former legislators have interest in what happened today, participated somewhat in what happened today, based on what we heard some of the speakers narrate, right? And so Koffa's only crime, according to what I heard Marvin Coe, his name is, said it was because he's trying to audit the legislature. This is the body that has not been audited. There's no proper financial framework in place to be able to allow a proper audit of this institution, and they've intentionally prevented that because this is where people go to get rich. This is where they go to distribute money. You heard someone say, Marvin Coe say, I went to Thomas Fowler's house and he handed me $1.4 million cash. Now think about that. right? So in his bedroom, like in his house, he had the money in the bag, US dollars. What does that say to you? This is dangerous. It means that these are people who are ready to do anything, to render the country ungovernable, to render the country unstable, right? So politics 2029 is a factor, but I think the trigger was this attempt to audit. Really, on the lower house part, it's become so obvious that they will not go near the audit thing because so many people will be exposed, and therefore it would jeopardize 2029 chances. It will expose all kinds of wealth that some people acquired and how they acquired the wealth. It will even make them vulnerable to international sanctions. And these are the kinds of things I think are motivation behind what we saw today.
Dr. Dugle, you've been there and you've seen the removal of speakers, right? But this one with the money and with the level, I think they were trying to go there because they have already gotten the 47 signatures. So they were trying to have the meeting and impeach him. And so supporters of Funadi Koffa went and physically blocked the entrance, cut off the electricity in the place so that they won't have the meeting, right? And when I listened to what they were saying, the vulgarity, I was so discouraged to the point of even being depressed. Do you have the same feeling I did?
I didn't watch the videos. I saw something on another channel, but why are you surprised? If you look at Liberian legislature, we don't send teachers, doctors, lawyers. These are people who job description in the past before they get to the house is, businessmen or consultants. Most of them never had a job before they got into the house. So what do you expect? They will act like that. And it's about money. We have never had a debate about any ideas, political ideas in the last 9 months since this new whole government came in, either from the executive, okay, they do their own thing. But legislature, nothing, zero. Nobody remember one thing that the legislature, they say they did this. We agree on this, we will do this. That will affect governance, that will affect the economy, that will affect so. All we saw, the budget being passed at midnight and everybody getting more money. So I would say it's a battle among crooks, and the biggest crook will win.
But I spoke to some.
But Dr. Pearson, you kind of, I would suggest to you something, that's very Machiavellian in politics. Any president that I know of, I work with, few. You see any president and somebody comes to you, a big man from the House of the President, and say, Mr. President, I have to vote to remove this person. I'll give you 99% of the time the president will say, are you serious? They will not say no. Presidents want to control the House all the time. That's democracy. If you can overthrow the speaker, you do it. I'm saying this not that that's what it's doing, but I'm saying from a presidential perspective. If you ask the president and his collaborators and hey, we got somebody who can replace the speaker, and he has the votes, the president will say, I don't know anything about it, but go ahead. That's my fiction, dude. That's my fiction.
In any country, for that matter.
Huh?
In any country.
In the world. Yes.
In a country. Yeah.
They used to say coming out cash violence, even with cash violence.
Any place in the world, president will say, you can get me a speaker? Yes, I'm taking.
Dr. Pearson, I've spoken to some sedition who said they too want to remove Funadi Koffa because he's now holding the executive accountable. They say he's cruising with the Unity Party. Every time the people are talking to say every time you see him, he's either with President Boakai, he's taking pictures with Yambli Kanga, so he's not holding them accountable. In fact, they were trying to draw up impeachment proceedings against President Boakai, and he wouldn't do it. So he's not doing anything. He's not holding the president accountable. So there are some seditionists who want him removed.
Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat this, right? I do have some friends in the CDC as well, even though I am a supporter of Mr. Alexander Cummings.
Yeah, I know you have a lot of friends in the CDC.
Let me be honest with you, right? The ethnicity in our politics right now is stronger now than it was during the Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and George Weah administration. Madam Sirleaf administration was more her political wits that got her through all of what she did. Under President, former President Weah, it was his popularity. Under President Boakai, as I speak, is his ethnicity. And the alignment he has also other
ethnicity. You make
I'm saying this to drop at this point.
No, hold on. Ethnicity me is Kisi ethnicity. That's what you're saying.
You know, I'm careful to say ethnicity because if I say tribe, people will say there are multiple tribes in Lofa. That's why from the day one when I've been pushing back on you, I say ethnicity. So ethnicity could mean the whole group in Lofa and Lower Lofa, because don't forget Bapolu and Lofa was one county. When my previous wife, my ex-wife was from there, peace be to her. We were one county, and when we visited Lofa, it was later the Bapolu got separated. So that whole section, and the fact of the matter is, and let me go back to my point so I can get lost on it. Look, Fala, there is skepticism about Fala. Fala is too close to your uncle. There's skepticism about Koffa. Koffa is also linked to his uncle. So you can see where the bias and the sympathy coming from with Koffa trying to play twin my position. But in citizens are not set up, but they have no option. They have no other option. So it is not in their interest, like the former president. We are
but Thomas Fala is also a sedition, so they could replace Fonati with Fala.
Fala is a nephew of President Boakai, and tradition is strong in Liberia. Tradition. Let me tell you something. Tradition is very strong in Liberia.
Dr. Pearson, you are saying two different. I mean, the opposite things, right?
Yeah. Listen. Can you remember when people were when citizens were accusing Fala of saying that he had already joined with Joseph Boakai? Also, his actions and his stance, he had to come back to the party headquarters and clarify. I'm not saying he is a unity partisan. I'm saying he has strong reasons to align with Joseph Boakai.
Can I ask you a question?
We have seen flip-flopping a lot in politics. It's not strange.
Dr. Pearson, how would Konati survive now that he knows that 49 people have taken the risk to sign a paper to say they want to recall him?
And that's what I was coming to now, because they had a resolution today and they listed some things that they said these are the things we have no confidence in him.
So this is the best answer I can give you, right? They didn't play the cards well, and now again they have what should I say? They've compromised their strategy. Like Dr. Duke said earlier, politics, anybody play politics for their interest. That's why you govern, you play politics for interest. But they didn't play the game well. Now they have exposed themselves. This thing has strong ramifications, Ja. As I speak to you right now, the United States government is thinking about putting somebody guys on sanction. If they are fat in these things, somebody guys are going on, they're going to have travel ban, they're going to have sanctions coming against them pretty soon. And somebody guys will have to go to court if that's possible. Or maybe they'll just compromise and leave.
Isn't it bad though that we have to count on the US to sanction our officials because they do something bad?
I don't know what the sanction has even done, but let me go to Mr. Sirleaf here. Mr. Sirleaf, they signed a resolution, right? To say they don't trust Fonati again, and they have a conflict of interest of his legal work with government agency, private sector. They listed some things for which they are recalling. Do they have a point here?
Well, yeah, I mean, like we are saying, in politics, you find somebody's weak link and to try to implicate them and just now, mind you, you're doing all of this public opinion. If it's anything, if there is have any respect for the people, you're also playing in a code of public opinion. So you want to be able to say something that an ordinary person out there will look and say, oh, well, yeah. I don't think that will have anything against strong against Fonati, because there's several lawmakers in there who have personal business ventures out there, who have schools and universities that are cozying up with the executive branch of government, who travel with the executive and so on. So you can just cherry pick and say, oh, because this person is a lawyer and they have a law firm and they have some clients that have relationship with the executive branch, and therefore we're going to impeach him. This is about accountability. This is about people being afraid that they will be exposed, that ill-gotten wealth will be exposed, and it will put them. So they're panicking. That there are all kinds of implications here, and so they will do all they can to remove Fonati and position somebody who they believe will be able to run 2029 or maybe in a VP slot and so on.
So what is the history of Fonati?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So do you see any problem with the fact that he's speaker and he controls, therefore, the legal agenda of the government, sort of, if you want to speak in general, and his entity does business with government entities? Even indirectly.
Well, you want to talk about
yeah, because I think at some point, sometimes you have to separate things.
Yes.
The day he becomes speaker, you say, you know what, I'm not going to work with NPA. I'm not going to work with this group and that. And then you separate them. Don't say I'm taking this from my law firm, which is a caveat.
Right.
Rich people do that. You take it, they say, oh yeah, he's our boss.
And just use the war crime
example. Yeah.
That's an example.
You recuse yourself. So we're talking about conflict of interest.
So you have to say, no, I don't want to. If he's not doing business with them, he should come up and say, no, I sever ties with all these government entities since I became speaker. It's not just to say, oh, I'm not going to the law firm every day. No, there's still, it's still his law firm. So I think I have a problem with that point. I think if he has, and he's still doing business with government entities as a speaker, there's a big problem there.
Yeah, that's a conflict of interest question.
At the highest level.
Can he be impeached based upon that? Can he be impeached?
I don't, unless they found some kind of abuse and some kind of crime that was committed, and there's something egregious happened.
Are you saying conflict of interest is not enough?
Conflict of interest is an ethical question. It's an ethical problem. The conflict of interest or the appearance of conflict of interest, two separate things. There could be an appearance, but it's not real conflict, just like a perceived thing and the thing itself, right? And then within the reason why you have a conflict of interest policy or some kind of regulation somewhere is to prevent somebody from having undue influence over another government agency or receiving funding in a way that they're not supposed to, right? And because proceeds from your law firm, maybe you have big clients that are all executive branch clients. How are you going to legislate? How are you going to preside over the legislator?
So Mr. Scully, I'm saying you can be referee and player at the same time, but as long as you don't blow the whistle, you're okay.
Let me deep out with
not necessarily. Dennis, look, in Liberia, what people tell us when we talk about these kinds of, well, we have a market problem. We have a small population. All these lawyers, all these law firms. How many clients do you have? What are the serious clients and clientele here to deal with? So that if you say you can't have this person as your client, this entity as your client, just because you are in a government position, then that firm will have no business. It was a firm before he became speaker, and there will be a firm after he leaves. The question is, ethically, in the legal world too, in the matter of legal practice, they have their own ethical standards that looks at all of these things. In politics, you should have your own the ethical standards, right? So if
the code of conduct is that standard that we use,
the code of conduct, it was exactly, that's an example in the political realm. So the code of conduct, if you follow it, you respect it, and then it will protect all kinds of things that we are afraid of, that could be violated if there's no conflict of interest or code of conduct policy in place. So it's possible you can represent people, your firm can represent people, you recuse yourself from there and be a fair and neutral speaker who runs the affairs of the House equitably and justly, if you're an ethical person.
Let me get 30 seconds on that point that we just raised.
Okay.
Let me clarify it, right? A majority of the time, law firm is not sole proprietorship. Majority of the time, law firm is based on partnership, and you got partners in the law firm. If Fanati Koffa was even the founder of the law firm, and he has several partners, lawyers with him operating that firm, and he has a position that he has acquired in government, like the speaker position, whatever position he has acquired, and he finds that he is going to be in conflict of interest with his law firm, he has the right to recuse himself from the law firm and don't practice with the law firm. He could practice on an individual basis, like for some other reason. I'm not sure how it's going to work, but he may not be directly linked to the law firm. So I think we're reading too much into it, and we cannot indict Speaker Koffa because he owned a law firm or he associated with a law firm before becoming speaker. I think Vanny Sherman was the same case in court as we're speaking right now.
I mean, so and the legal word I think is this one, divestiture, right? So why can't he do that?
Yeah, you have a share still in the firm. I mean, the firm is an institution. They have other partners and associates that are running the firm. If you recuse yourself, from practicing law with the firm itself, then you've minimized that conflict, the potential running the risk of being in conflict with things that will come in the political realm. But how do you then divest yourself from proceeds that come from that, the law firm itself? Now, there could be some risk there. So it's just if it's an ethical context where people are really keen about ethics and they're looking at being careful with this, it's possible. But in our context, I don't see, I
think we're raising technical issues, but I'm talking, we're just talking about code of conduct and ethical issues. It's not about technicality, but if you want to be technical about it, we'll then ask the question, who at the law firm brought NPA in? Who at the law firm brought LPRC? Is it Fanati Koffa or one of the new partners? Then we go and then we'll find out who's getting the money. So if he brought the companies in and then he recused himself and said, I'm speaker, Miss so-so-so, Councilor so-so-so is going to take care of you. That's not divestiture. That's like I'm passing my order to somebody to represent me. So let's not be too technical about it. So if you go deep, we want to know who brought those clients into the company. So
that's why I say it's difficult in our context because Massacre, right, with the War Economic Crimes Executive Directorship, it's a similar thing that impacted him because he represented certain clients that, the civil society community didn't see that he would be neutral, would be able to be an objective person to run that kind of sensitive office. And then they look at the connection with him and Speaker Koffa. And, even how the executive order that the president signed was drafted, who drafted it, which law firm was participating in. Now this person is practicing with this law firm. So these were the kinds of things that really raised the temperature for Massacre that led to his downfall with that office. So forget about the technicality, the politics of it. That's why I spoke earlier about that appearance of conflict of interest and real conflict of interest.
But there is conflict of interest. I don't know why.
And there's a problem for him. So these people have to show now, those who signed the resolution, passed the resolution today, they actually have, just by accusing someone, you have the burden of proof to show that this person actually was in violation of something that warrants is high enough under our law, the impeachment law. Who knows? And if you can show that, then go for it.
I think there is one point in democracy. They don't have to show anything. They just have to vote.
Impeachment is political.
Yeah, impeachment is political. This is like, we don't want you, and then they vote, and then you don't.
Yeah. So two things here. Let's look at the history of food because Mr. Salim, you said he's one of the audit and they're afraid of it. What is
Yes.
the history of Funati Koffa holding anybody accountable since he took that office, right? Even holding the government accountable. He's piling around, he's flying around with the president, the executive branch he's supposed to be checking on. Okay, so what's the history there? And even if we go back, Mr. Koffa has moved from Liberty Party, Unity Party, CDC. Now he's with Unity Party. So what is his history
Is
that
he
tells
with
us
Unity Party officially now?
No, he's cruising with
I'm
them.
not
That's
aware
what
of
he's being accused of.
Well, look,
I mean, his
what-
history of holding people accountable, where is that?
they're under a lot of pressure on the audit side. That I know for sure, right? The new
Will he do it? Is he open to it? Has he done it before? Has he done anything similar?
I know I can't speak for what he has done in the past, right? Although you should look at people's history to judge whether or not they will perform now or perform in the future. But I know that the legislature has been under a lot of pressure to put in financial framework that will make it easier to audit them, and that they should be auditable. They should be audited because they carry a large chunk of the budget. They're the ones who pass the budget law and all kinds of things like that. So they can't be above the law. On the Senate side, their leadership has been working around putting in some measures to be audited. And so the rhetorics and the lower house, I think that's what's triggered what we saw today. So I'm not looking at the speaker's personal history of holding people accountable or himself being held accountable. We hope some of that will play into it, but the thing is the rhetoric that trigger panic.
So Dr. Douglas, let's look at the money that we saw. You think what's going to happen now with all this money? People say, "Hey, this person give me." Is it lobbying or is it? Are they going to get in trouble for anything?
Well, I'm like, you can. The guy say somebody gave him $15,000, but he didn't film that part. He don't have video of the guy giving him money. So they could come up and say, we never gave you money. You just, do that. Somebody actually said that today that, this guy was there to sabotage the recall of Sonati Koffa. So they made up a story with their own money and they put on a video that, but the list was true. And they said the list was okay, but the money part, they're not true. That people just make up a story to get up to scare Fonati and all of that. But how it's going to play out, I think Fonati has a tough time ahead of him. Even if let's say it's for money, I don't, I can't imagine 48 people from the same body.
So, some of them say they were Trojan horses and spies.
Yeah, well, from both CDC, UP, and some independents. They're both in there. So how is it going to survive? Because to run a house, people have to trust you, and you have to trust them. If you have 47 people among you, people who don't trust you, who are brave enough to sign a paper and say we want to remove you, who now say, oh no, I don't want to sign paper. Let's go in there. I'll vote with you. But they sign a paper, put a date on it, meaning we want to remove you. Then you have a serious problem.
Dr. Doom, bro, we even give you a voting card, you hold it, and we take your money, your rest. On the election day, the voting card will go in the booth and we vote differently.
I know we lie. I know people lie, but I'm just saying this is power politics. It's sitting ahead of the house.
Yeah, that's problem.
47 of them signed a piece of paper. They didn't just say, okay, we will remove him. They signed a piece of paper with dates and a signature and say, yeah, we're going to remove him. Either they got money or not is immaterial.
That's a problem. Yeah, that's a problem.
One point, any of them could go back to Fonati and say, Fonati, if you give me 10,000 or 15,000, I'll not sign. He got no problem with money.
Honestly, I will not minimize it to that degree, because I think the money is a primary factor to what hurting our body politics, because people go in there for the money. So I can see those guys signing that paper because they have to sign to get the money. But they might be the same people who come outside and pretend to be the one that blowing the whistle and keep the money, but still blow the whistle. It's crazy. That's like
also one point we haven't discussed though. What I was hearing today was that this was a CDC orchestration. That two things: Koffa's influence is rising too much, that presidential ambition, overshadowing former President Weah. On the other hand, that is closing up with Unity Party too much. Is now toting the party line in the legislature. He's not doing what CDC would like to see him do. And so they put a cabal of CDC lawmakers together with some other allies to really orchestrate this. So politically, for his party, there's a problem. And like Dr. Duke is saying, if people are brave enough to put their names on paper, that number of lawmakers, potentially they could kick you out.
What will Boakai do? I know the president will say these are separate branches of government. At the beginning, there were rumors and reports that President Boakai, was giving money so that they can have his preferred speaker. So at this time, with money now, big money changing, you think the president going to play a role here at all, mediating through his vice president? Now the vice president, according to reports also, what they are saying is he's part of it. Well, what will Boakai do here, Dr. Duke?
Nothing. Boakai know nothing about this thing.
Yeah, so what is he going to do?
He's not going to do anything. He just watch it.
Deviate, or is he going to
No. This is purely another branch of government. Boakai got nothing to do with it. He will not comment on it. Right? The marshal will not comment on it. They will just leave it and say, let it play out. When they resolve it, we want to work with the responsible people in the House. So that's the kind of press statement I would probably expect them to come up with and say, we look forward to working with the leadership of the House. We like Funati, but the House decides who they want as a leader. And it comes down to that really. If I were Funati, I'll say, hey, you know what? If 47 people don't trust me out of 73, I'll say, take your job. But let me keep my clients.
That's a Pearson. So what next? What we see playing out? Does this benefit President Boakai, former President Tweah, or Vice President Jeremiah Cone?
Madam Serim succeeded in getting 3 important persons from that house with the same brown envelope, but none of the money could be traced to her. Right? The same brown envelope. Edwin Snowden was worse. Edwin Snowden, the envelope, you could see part of the envelope, but not the whole part of that whole envelope, but you could see part of it. But let me say this, right? I think we have a lot of young people in politics right now, especially in the Joseph Boakai administration, at the lower level, especially the ministerial level, and they do not have the what I want to say, the wherewithal to play deep politics. As we speak to you, Melvin Cole, the House chairman on Rules and Order, was on one of our talk shows today, claiming that they have traces of evidence that lead to where those money came from. And some of the individuals that he called out loud on public radio were Mo Ali from Water and Sewer, and I think someone from Ministry of Transport or something else. I can't remember the second one quite clearly. But what I'm trying to say is that there's no way President Boakai can be quiet when there are traces of the money to his executive branch of government. And don't forget, there's a senior executive branch of government that went outside of the national budget, the budget law, and spent over $15 million of budget expenditure. So again, it goes back to say, was some other money linked to this activity that we're talking about right now, like the one to NSA that cannot be accounted for, like the 2.3 million with unexplained miscellaneous that couldn't be accounted for. Can we say the 2 million to NSA that couldn't be accounted for also is part of the money we're talking about? So yeah, so President Boakai may be like Duke saying, playing diplomacy and saying I don't know about it, but if the money gets traced back to President Boakai's administration, the executive, he's going to be in some problems too.
Already, there's a press statement already from the president, from the executive mansion, that they're not part of it.
Of course, they're not part of it. But you don't. Nobody bribe with checks. So you give people cash. You say, "Oh, you got my fingerprint on the money. How you can prove that I give it to you?" Or you say, "Oh, I owe you money. I pay you back." So you say, "I'm bribing you." I'm not bribing you. I pay you money back. That's all.
So for legislative function.
Yeah, legislative function. So remember, you lend me that money to you. So yeah. No money always. Liberian politics is dirty with money. And we talked about criminalization of the state long ago, and this is one example of it. But this is like, it's so low. It's so low that people just pass money and say, okay, we're going to remove the speaker. It's not about the budget. It's not about his policy. It's not about the ideas. It's just about, oh, yeah, we're going to find a reason so we can get, oh, yeah, he got conflict of interest. But it's very low for politics, really. I don't know who gave money, but somebody may have given money to someone.
All right, Mr. Salif, I think this is the quickest response we've gotten from the executive mansion so far. It reads, government rejects link to plot to remove House Speaker Funati Koffa as claimed by CDC leader George Weah. The Unity Party-led government headed by President Joseph Boakai categorically rejects link to plot on Capitol Hill to remove House Speaker Honorable J. Funati Koffa. The government describes as preposterous, disgraceful, and unfounded accusation by the House Speaker, accusation by the leader of the Coalition for Democratic Change, Mr. George Weah, that is funding such a scheme. We believe that the purported plot to remove Speaker Funati from his leadership role looks more like an internal power struggle within the CDC orchestrated by Mr. Weah. This is why Mr. Weah has been quick to deflect attention from himself to the Boakai government. That's the
yeah.
And it continues.
Yeah, let's hear the rest. Well, that's what we were saying earlier.
You think they're spot on here?
No, that's what we're saying. I was saying earlier, right?
When you're so quick to come up like that, and they say,
no, because it's a matter of public opinion. Also, it's a matter of image.
You have to claim that. Yeah, you got to come up with
particularly what happened today when it was so unruly, and the thing that the public saw, we all saw. The executive mansion had to come up real quickly, and when the opposition party here comes up and accuses the sitting president of plotting to remove the Speaker of the House, who is a member of the opposition party, you have to be quick about it. Otherwise, the silence could be misunderstood.
What they say in the press statement that it sounds like George Weah. I mean, my first reaction, that was my first reaction. When I first heard the big thing this afternoon, I said, Weah is onto something. Mm-hmm. Nobody will go after the CDC speaker if Weah is not part of it. You don't dare do it. Mm-hmm. Nobody. CDC is not a party of democracy or anything. It's Weah party. Everything goes from him. Everything goes to him. Nobody will dare sign a paper if you're a sedition that you want to remove a Funati Koffa from the speakership without the agreement of George Weah. You gone from CDC and your job is over that next day. I would not. I put my hand. George Weah is part of this. Totally on top of it. I don't know when he knew. I think so.
I disagree, though.
Yeah, you can disagree, doctor. I'm also. I agree. You disagree. I agree. I agree with the president.
Let's go to something else.
Then 1 second. When I was much younger, right? When I went in the kitchen to Steve when the soup pot, by the time my mom entered the kitchen, I'll be the first to say, "I eat some." So.
Yeah, well, no, but no. Judo. Politics is like judo. You see somebody going, you allow them to go with a force. So we want to remove the speaker, and we can help. Why not?
And for the Boakai government to be this quick, they have not been quick in responding to things. But this one is tough. But let's go to our next issue, which is former Finance Minister Samuel Tweah. During those scary times when we're hearing about auditors dying back to back, so Tweah now was called in by the government to say, "Hey, let's look at this. We want you to come in to ask you a few questions concerning the death of Emmanuel Barton Nyeswa." So Mr. Tweah now was in the studio, and let's take a listen to what he said about his involvement, how this whole thing is. Even if you had gone there, he was going to be arrested because. Let's listen to Mr. Tweah himself talking about what happened.
to the death of Barten, Nyeswa. And in fact, police reopened investigation that was supposed to speak to you. Have they done that now?
Okay, so thank you. You asked that question, Jada, because why I'm being called to the police is still confounding to me. My theory is that they wanted me to go there so they can arrest me. Obviously, if I had shown up for the batting thing, they would have used the opportunity to put me in handcuff. In 2-3 days, by the time I get my bond, they already have that. So I know that because I should not even be called. The batting story has probably not been told to the public in a way that they will understand what happened. I think because there's too much noise, and I think this is the best time to tell these stories. My brother have done so, but he doesn't have the audience that I have right now. Listen, on the night that the thing happened about it, I called my brother and said, I'm coming to your house to spend the weekend. I think it was a Friday. And so because of that, he didn't go out with Barton. He stayed with me. So I was there. He was not out with Barton. Normally, he and Barton and Thomas, now all of them, they will be where they are doing their stuff. So he said, oh, my brother's here with me, so I can come with you. So I stay at the house, 2 a.m. I'm sleeping. My security knocked my door, say, your brother said you should get on the phone. I said, well, what happened? He said, he won't talk to you. I took the phone. You have to call the Minister of Health. My brother's on the phone. Tico then called me that Barton, something happened to Barton, so I came here.
Who is Tico?
Tico William is the guy who was in the house with Barton Nyeswa. One girl called Lida, probably his girlfriend who slept there, and Professor Red. There was 3 people. My brother said he goes to the house. They called him. When he gets to the house, Barton is on the ground. The people who are in the house with Barton are sitting. So he's asking them, okay, but Barton said, it looks like he's bleeding. Why are you sitting this? They believe that Barton is always in some fit, so they're not taking it serious. So Norris said, the man is bleeding, and the 3 of you are waiting for me to come from my house. Why you couldn't carry him to the hospital and I join you there? He got angry and put Barton in his car.
Why did they call your brother?
Because that's the question. So he's asking, why are you calling me when you could take the man to the house? Why? So my brother is some figure among them. He's a lawyer. They respect him. So they always do things together. But his anger was that the man was bleeding and they believed that he probably wasn't and they were just sitting. So this is how Norris took the living Barton. He was not dead Barton when Norris took him to JFK. When Norris was taking him to JFK, he called me and said, please call Dr. Brown and Dr. Jala.
You get the point. Dr. Dukley, you watched this, right?
I just seen it first time though. I know,
right. So for the first time, what sense do you make of it?
So I want to know how far Norris Tweah lived from that
Barton.
house.
Yeah,
from that house. So they will call him. Somebody, where did the man? How did the man laying down bleeding? And they called somebody from wherever he was to say and come see. And then he doesn't call an ambulance, but he takes somebody and put it in the car, and the guy dies before he gets to the hospital. What kind of kukuma do?
And the people that were there who called him said the guy was faking. So I wonder why they called him when he was faking.
Say the guy faking, but they see blood coming out of his nose or somewhere, and he's laying down on the ground. So he's still alive. They didn't call ambulance. They didn't call the police. They called him, Norris Tweah, his brother. And the brother left the house without telling him that I'm going to this house because I was called on an emergency. I don't know. It's kind of swanky to me, but really swanky.
Yeah. Mr. Salif, we all ought to remember that there is this distrust of government, right? When President Doe got those people that were accused of rebels, and when they were testifying, they said they were in the car, Tripoli, and we all dismissed them. Oh, look at the people lying again. So when they mentioned Tweah that it needs to be called, people thought that this is another because of this distrust of government. So we're not taking it serious. But based on Tweah's testimony, does it what he's explained, does it make sense to you?
If I were him, and obviously I'm not him, so he's a very smart man, I would keep my mouth shut.
Mansfield G. Dwopu say Norris lays 5 minutes from Barton, Nyeswa. So it means Tweah too, because Samuel Tweah went to stay with Norris that night. So both of them were 5 minutes away from where this thing took place. Continue, sir.
Right. No, I was saying, especially after the police has called or somewhat invited former Minister Tweah as somebody of suspect in this case, or at least of interest, that the police
not
wanted to
suspect.
talk to him. If I were him, I would not speak to this matter because, yes, you may want to, for public opinion's sake, clarify things based on what you know to be, your own fact, your own truth. But as you explain, you create more contradictions. Could potentially create more legal risk for yourself. I thought it was a risky move because the more you explained, the more questions. I think it raised more questions than answered for me and for others that I've been speaking to. I watched this live when Minister Tweah appeared on OKFM that day. I stopped everything I was doing. I watched it throughout this particular segment when he explained and narrated his version. So just like you said, I mean, when we heard police was interested in speaking to Samuel Tweah, I thought because he was in government, is it something they're trying to just implicate him, connect him somewhat? How does he know anything about this? But he confirmed that, at least to some degree, that he was aware that night. He started calling other ministers, other officials to come to the hospital and so on. And so it just confirmed that the police had some probable cause to invite him as a person of interest. But I think it's a dangerous thing that he tried to do, a dangerous strategy to explain himself. If I were him, I would not speak. I would say this matter is before the police. It's a matter of investigation. I'm not going to speak to this or direct them to my lawyer.
Dr. Pearson, what we learned that the late Nyeswa house was like a story building. So he fell from maybe 10 feet or so. I don't know. But he fell from up. It's not just on the ground. So if that is true, and because of that fall, Norris Tweah was called. But then when he got there, he said they were sitting around. So he said, the man is bleeding and you are sitting. They thought he was faking it. So if you were faking it, yeah, you fake falling head on, and then even though you were faking, but they still call Norris. I don't know, to watch some fake. And when he was leaving, even though his brother came to visit him, that's why he didn't go out with them that night. But now, when they call him, he did not inform the brother. He left and called the brother later on his way to JFK. Dr. Pearson.
Dennis,
is the story adding up?
Dennis, Liberia is a very interesting country. If you've not lived in Liberia and have some of the experiences, some of the things you would just feel is far-fetched. My deepest condolence to Barton Nyeswa's family and others. Let me give you my own story, right? So it's 1994. I came from church, and my wedding was announced at church. So when I went home, we're living on the in Liberia, call it second floor, but it's actually supposed to be first floor, And some guys who heard my wedding was announced in my home church decided to visit my mother's house because I was with my mother at the time to come and see if I have money because I'm getting married. And they climbed the second floor and entered through my mother's room window and entered the house. My mother tried to go down the stairs because it is dark. I'm trying to run after her for safety. And I was hit 3 times across my body. One on my stomach. The first blow was on my stomach because I was going downstairs and the guy was at the bottom of the stairs. He landed me on my stomach with the machete. And then he landed me the second time on my shoulder, on my left shoulder. And then when I turned my back to climb the stairs, he landed me on my back. I got a couple of stitches from my neighbors from next door. And because it happened around 3 a.m. in the morning, we had to do that with anesthesia. And then I waited because it was curfew. I had to wait until 6 in the morning. And then we walked to ELW hospital. Dennis, you won't believe this. I sat in the ELW hospital emergency room from around 7:30 to 10 o'clock and nobody touched me. Nobody attended to me in the emergency room. And my family had to take me from there and carry me to JFK before I got attended to. And by the time I got to JFK, it was around 1 p.m. in the afternoon. That's Liberia. So I would have died there, And if you try to explain that story to somebody, they will tell you, say, it doesn't make no sense. Why would the nurses be passing by the man, don't do anything about him when he got brutally wounded over the course of the night by robbers? But Dennis, that's Liberia. And I wouldn't say anything much because it is just about speculation. I will allow the case to go.
Where are you going with the story?
What will happen?
To say that it will happen, but I don't think that will happen in 2022. That in Liberia you can't call a doctor. I mean, you can't. This is a government official. They ain't
Let me give you another story. Madam Ellen Johnson.
What's your point? I want to see the moral of the story.
This is my point. This is my point, Dr. Dukley. During Madam Ellen Johnson's second term in office, first or second term in office, one of our renowned doctors walked to Cali Hospital in the emergency room because of high blood pressure and sugar, and died in the emergency room. Nobody attended to him.
No, we know of the hospitals. What does it have to do with what we are talking?
What I'm saying here is that, Dennis, the story may sound far-fetched, but it takes proper investigation to find the facts. That's what I'm simply trying to say. So,
your story is based on what happens at the hospital. They don't attend to patients. We know that. I have family member who died from that. What? So the issue is not that did he attend to Nyeswa at the hospital? That's why he died. That's not what we're saying.
I think we're talking about the whole setup or the whole thing.
It would not make sense to you, Dennis. It would not make. You will have to have a proper investigation to find out. Let me tell you, if the man, let me just assume, because you push me to do that. Assume that the man may have fallen and probably whoever went there, they didn't know he had fallen, but saw him on the ground.
So they call Norris because they say he has fallen.
Yes, they were there when he fell. According to Mr. Tweah, they were there when allegedly there when
I didn't hear that in the story.
Yeah, but you see,
that's why they call Norris. Why do you think they call Norris to party? They called Norris because Barton was in trouble.
I think instead of discussing Tweah and his brother, we should be discussing the girlfriend that they mentioned and whoever else at the house with the young man.
We are discussing the Tweah testimony, right?
No, and they're not.
So here is it, Dr. Pearson. According to the story, according to Mr. Tweah, Barton and Nyeswa, they all, and Thomas Doe now, the lady, all who have gone out. But because Tweah was visiting, that's why he didn't go, he stayed. So for him to be called 2 a.m., they call him because something has happened to their dear friend.
Yeah.
That's why he went there. When he went there, Barton was on the ground bleeding. And those guys then were sitting around, joking around. And when he asked, why are you not looking at him? They say, well, this guy loves to do fake stuff.
Yeah, but you see, Dennis, there's another story. The first time this story came out, they said the guy got up in the middle of the night trying to go to the bathroom. And he missed the door and fell from the first floor. That was the first story that came out.
Mm-hmm.
And then people saw it and then called Tweah to come. And Tweah came and they put him in a car and then he died on the road. Now they're saying that he fell and then people were there. See the contradiction? The first story was he missed the bathroom door or in his own house. That he was sleepy and then he tried to go to the bathroom and he opened the wrong door and he fell. So, story is different.
So they asked you, why was Norris called? He said, we got to ask them.
Yeah, but that's the
right.
In my view, listen, Dennis, it is easy for people to try to find a political spin on these kind of stories. If I am the national police, I wouldn't be asking who to call. I wouldn't be particular about who came at what time. I'll be particular about who was in the house of the individual when he had the experience he had. So why are we not hearing the stories of those who were in the house with Barton Nyeswa? When what happened to him happened? Why are we asking who they say to call on phone to come to the house? That to me, that's secondary evidence. The primary evidence, those in the house were the men.
And but when they call Tweah is giving his side what he saw when he got there. What
so the people should talk. The people at the house should talk.
Yeah, the people at the house should be the one talking, not Tweah.
No, not the only ones talking. If you arrive at the accident scene and you took the body and your brother took the body and carried it to the hospital, shouldn't they ask you to?
No, the brother can speak for himself. I'm talking about the Tweah that we just discussed.
Yeah, but what Tweah's saying, does Tweah's story make sense to you?
I can't speak to that.
All right.
Because I just told you my own story. If I told you this story over and over, even my mother couldn't understand this story when the situation happened to me.
No,
It
your
took myself
No,
story
to-
that's
makes
the
sense to me.
hospital. We know. I
No,
mean, there are a lot
because
of cases of
in
people
terms
dying
of
in
the
hospital in Bolivia. Yeah.
with
That's why
us,
they
I
call
mean,
JFK. At one point, they were calling JFK just for killing.
That story resonates with all of us. We know it.
Yeah, we all
We
know.
know the
We all
story about
lost
armed
somebody at
robbers. My
JFK or
nephew was
Kaplan.
hit with cutlasses. But the story that have to do with Tweah, Norris Tweah, the people sitting around, they say the man joking. And because they were joking, so they called Norris Tweah. And Norris Tweah left the house without saying, hey, brother, get up. Even though you came to visit me for also party, get up. Our best friend is in trouble. That's where I'm going. He didn't do that. But you say you can speak to that. I can't force you. But
Yeah, but I don't understand the part of the joke. The joke and the man bleeding, laying on the ground. When
Right.
he fell from the first floor, two, he's bleeding. And then there's a girl who's supposed to be his girlfriend, and who's standing there, and they think he's joking.
Right.
this is
Right.
That
2
this is
a.m.
like,
Right.
are we
that's
that dumb?
that's why I say I would not say anything. I mean,
Yeah.
also they were calling the best doctors and people in the country, the Minister of Health. That's what Mr. Tweah just said. The clip he played, Dennis, he was, he said, call Dr. Jala, call this person. These are all high top officials of government and top professionals in the country. So it wasn't a story about neglect at that point. It was really more about what happened at the house, how it happened,
It's about
and
the
all that.
house.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Tough Talking Thursday. And if you want to be part of the conversation, please call 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403#. And the last story I want to throw in there before we as we wait for the call is this whole issue of same-sex marriages in Liberia. I know it's the Methodist Church. We don't go to discuss so much about the church. That's their doctrine. Somebody say if you don't want to be part of it, leave. In fact, Martin Luther, that's how he broke away from the Catholic Church. You don't like the doctrine, you leave. So that's my focus today is the whole idea of same-sex marriage, and the people I saw them, they are outraged. They look at, they want to burn the church. And I for me personally, being American now, maybe I don't get it. That people are so outraged about same-sex marriage compared to things that are destroying the country, like corruption, like rape, like incompetence.
Yeah,
So,
but
Dr. Duque, you talk to me. Is it culture? Is it about culture? Because every time you talk about it, you say this is not our culture, but stealing is not our culture. Rape is not our culture.
I think it's false interpretation of culture. And it's not just Liberia. Africans have this rejection of officializing any form of, gay culture. From Kenya, Uganda, the laws of the past. Some people say, oh, yeah, we're not going to give you aid. But, it's also the fact that it became a natural thing in the U.S. People say, oh, okay, we don't care. You want to sleep with somebody, you want to care. That's so. Once the U.S. does it, and now they're linking up to, if you don't accept the gay culture, that means you are oppressing a group of people. Now, I said, no, we don't have that kind of problem. We have everybody know, anybody who lives in Monrovia know that they've been gays from 1991, from 1921, from 1877. They've been gays. We know them. Some people from your friends, people who done it, but nobody cares. But when you talk about making an official act, then we have this judicial culture that say men don't sleep with men, women don't sleep with women. That's our patriarchal culture that we're projecting. It's not that everybody know. People, if you ask 10 people in Monrovia, do you know anybody who's gay? They'll say, yeah, I know somebody. But are you friends with that person? Yeah, we go together. We go out, we go eat, we go dance. But I don't touch his thing. He doesn't touch my thing. That kind of stuff. But we live with it. We don't care. But when it comes to having it as part of a religion, getting to the church and going to the politics of it, Africans in general have a negative reaction to gay culture. Not that they care, really, they don't really care in their daily lives. That's the hypocrisy of it. It's like this kind of culture that you have in the background somewhere. When it's something come that take you out of your comfort zone, you have to react to it, and then it project it and say, no, we can't do this. But Islam, we don't have this problem, because our mosque is not my mosque. Is not linked to any mosque anywhere in the world. It's just my imam, myself, and the imam is not there. Anybody can be imam. So we don't have that culture. We don't worry about who you sleep with, who you don't sleep with. But we're not going to celebrate gay marriage. Definitely not in a mosque. Not for the time being. And since the Quran has never been changed, those things will not change in Islam. But we don't really care about it. We don't talk about those things. Islam doesn't concern itself with what you do in your private life. As long as you don't touch people, you don't harass anybody, you don't kill anybody, you don't sleep with somebody's spouse. Islam says everything that you do as your person is between you and God will forgive you. We don't care about those things.
So I grew up in the village where I was born, behind the house, too hot, on plantain leaf. So in that time, when you steal even an egg, our culture frowns on it. You get punished severely. Rape, that one is just unheard of. So how come that when these things are done, we don't cry about them as being against our culture? And another thing is, but when it comes to, see the money that's changing hands. We talk about the criminalization of the state. But then when it comes to same-sex marriage, it's like people want to kill. Mr. Shalif, how you explain this? Things that destroy their life because of that. The highway is not paved. People are dying. There is death everywhere. People are dying. JFK is just for killing. I'm not trying to minimize what they believe, but why are we so outraged about this social issue more than the things that are really killing us?
It's the mindset, it's that mental model thing too. On the corruption side, and people see these terrible things happening, their officials, they've been socialized to see public sector as the most prestigious place where people get rich and all of that. And if you don't even steal, then you're stupid. So there's no outcry there. Our culture is a very religious culture. Whether you're a Muslim or Christian, and the people are very religious, whether you are in the city or
on rape. There's a priest who just raped a 15-year-old. There's another guy who raped 5-year-old, and because the 5-year-old was small, used a razor blade.
Those are all abominable.
We don't fight.
Yeah, well, but people are those who are found or believed to engage in those kinds of some of these other social malfeasances you're mentioning, Dennis. People don't want to be associated with them. People look at them as bad people. If they're your family member, it brings shame to the family. Just because you don't see such outcries, and there have been outcries of rapes and those kinds of sexual violence against young people, against women, young girls. We've seen that in our society where people taken to the street, where women gone, out and protesting, and we've seen that. So it's not acceptable. But with the same-sex thing, it's really at a different level across the continent of Africa. It's a matter of culture, it's a matter of sort of cultural sensibility and morality. It's not so much of religious, as much as we in Liberia were a strongly religious culture, but across Africa, like Dr. Douglas was saying, look at Uganda. So you peg that homosexuality question as a human rights question. You peg it to aid and money and funding and donor assistance. People revolt against that. Like, okay, so you're disrespecting us. There are things that we do in our society you do not do. You do not like. You say that this is not a lifestyle that you adopt under your law and in your culture. And we too, this is not a lifestyle that we adopt on our law and on our culture, right? Polygamy, for instance, in the United States, there's law against it. Everywhere there's bigamy, there's law against it. So it's a little bit of culture, religion, and also pride that these African countries are fighting back. So it's a difficult conversation. Like someone was saying in the chat, look, even here in the United States, it took a long time before people came around. We've seen churches and religious institutions that evolved that stands on this question. There were churches that you couldn't attend if you were known openly gay person, let alone to be a prelate in that church. And eventually, the Catholic Church, eventually they started considering and coming around. So it takes time for society to come around on an issue. You just don't force it upon them. Here in the US, in Europe, similarly, in Africa is now experiencing that bout of rejection and protestation.
Thank you. Dr. Pearson, I want to come to it because the level of outrage we see with this gay business, people want, if people are trying to burn down, for instance, that's not what I'm advising, the Capitol building because of the corruption that is destroying the country. But they don't, it's like, we're cool with that. We're just waiting to be the next one to benefit from the loot.
Yeah, because when somebody steal out of the house, maybe if you're lucky, you may get something out of it. Yeah.
Is that why, Dr. Pearson?
I think that Dr. Du hit a very good call there. If the guys are stealing and they're going back, like somebody said, they invested in the community, in the country, and then they didn't do wrong. But that's not what I want to say. Let me say this, Dennis. People need to realize in anthropology, some of the things that we accept today is not because it is something I would have accepted if circumstances did not dictate to us. Let me give you an example. When you see this whole thing about gay and same-sex stuff rampant in Europe and in America, it is not because people were comfortable with the practice, but because people who made the rules and the laws and who influence society had their own children and their family members involved. And they reached to a point where they felt they could no longer neglect their family members or throw their own kids outside, so they make it legal and they advocated for it. And then they made society feel it is okay. Now, let's flip it another way. Marijuana. People went to jail in New York there and other places in the US here for carrying one low in the pocket, and they went to good jail. Today, marijuana, when the guys who saw the benefit for them and in power, and they feel beneficial to them, and they can smoke it and drink it and eat it and see it, how they feel when they do it, they make it legal. So, look, listen, my people back in Africa, and I will speak for Africa as a whole, it is not part of our culture.
It's still a part of our culture. It's really part of our culture.
Dennis, you wouldn't try to put or try to measure how people respond to different aspects of
No, I'm talking about culture now. I'm talking about culture. It's not part of our culture.
So look, what I'm saying to you, you cannot say everybody will have the same proportion of expression.
But do you believe that stealing is part of our culture? No, right?
Well, listen, not the majority of Liberians steal in the kind of a way we say people steal, Dennis. That's not the case.
You can answer that culture question.
Culture is
molestation, incest.
Culture is defined in the simplest terms. Culture is defined in our textbooks as the way of life of any people. Corruption is not the way of life of Liberia as a people. That derogatory reference is wrong.
It's not our culture. All these things are not our culture. Why are we only frowning on?
That's what I'm telling you. Corruption is not a culture of the Liberian people. That concept is wrong because culture is the way of life.
Why are we not outraged when this other culture is being infringed upon?
Because our people traditionally do not subscribe to same-sex relationship. It's as simple as that.
They don't subscribe to corruption.
But corruption is not a way of our. It's not a way of life for us.
Yeah, but I think.
So you want to measure? You want to measure Thomas Fala with me? Or you want to measure Thomas Fala with yourself because you Liberian and corrupt?
No. What I'm saying here is, same-sex marriage is not our culture. Corruption is not our culture. Rape is not our culture. These three things, right? But when corruption is practiced, which is not our culture, we are not outraged. When rape is being done, which is not our culture, we are not outraged. But when same sex, then we are outraged. We want to burn down the town. Why?
Let me take you back to one of my courses in the University of Liberia when I wrote my master's thesis. When I do my master's in peace and conflict studies. Yeah, peace and conflict studies. You know, one of the conflicts that are difficult to handle and make them intractable are countries that are based on values, religion, and stuff like that. You're touching people values, you're touching people religion. When you go that route,
It's the same with corruption and rape.
no,
That's
No,
value.
but
listen,
no, but I think
it's not the
Dennis,
same.
I think
It's
we're
not the
going.
same, Dennis.
I
It's
think
not the same.
you guys are talking. The difference is we are talking about people feeling that their culture is being attacked from outside.
Right.
I don't think, as I said, I don't think like nobody has burned anybody in Moravia because they're gay. Nobody has been beaten because they're gay. They're gay people. They speak up. They say we're gay. We want laws, but people don't want the laws to pass to protect them. That's another story. But nobody's fighting against gay as they're fighting
They're
about
fighting
the
the
gay, about the
institutionalization.
marriage. I think the issue is about socialization of
All
the
right.
gay lifestyle. It's not, I don't think people are fighting against gay. People know gay people. They're gay association in Monrovia. They have the parade, the little parade, and people say, "Oh, look at these funny
Thank
people."
you. Thank you, Dr. Douglas. Let me bring in some callers here before time
Yeah,
runs out.
okay, yeah. Let's go. Yeah.
Yeah, let me start with my first caller here. That's Mr. Calebo Gonglo. Mr. Gonglo, you are live.
Yes. Thank you, Dennis. I just want to make a comment quickly. When you guys play the summer tour video, and I listened to the different panelists' comment on that issue. My understanding, when I listened to that clip, which is not the detail, the full clip of that, I didn't listen to that, but I assume he said more things on this issue than you probably show. And you Dennis, particularly saying it was not making sense to you. But the story you guys explained, Norris Tweah was called to the scene.
Right.
Who made that call to Norris Tweah? So this whole thing, if I'm an investigator, if the police, the people who were on the scene, who made that call, why would they call a non-doctor? Why didn't go to GFK? Why didn't call a doctor? So those people I should be the one that the focus should be on. Not Norris Tweah, who was called, who lived maybe 5 minutes ago because they are very good friends and the entire no. So I wouldn't go there because I know it's easy to pick a government official or former government official. Okay, these are big people. You know, some of these comments I'm hearing is part of the campaign narrative that these auditors are killed because they were going to do this. You know, I mean, Patti was a friend. I knew him. I mean, but I can't say much now because our culture, we can't speak anything negative about there. But he was auditor for some time. And Liberia has been corrupt. Internal auditors were in all the different ministries. I had people that are trained at the World Bank training program in Liberia who were signed as auditors, internal auditors in the ministry. They used to come and report to me on what their bosses were doing to the internal auditing agency. I'm not going to go into that. So this is a separate story. I can just say, listen, somebody lost his life. We empathize, we sympathize with the family. But this whole thing about a big man being female, let's ask your guys who are on the scene. I think the police should even arrest him because he was in that house with close friends. Tico Williams was one of them. And I think one Dr. D. They were there. They made a call.
Right.
Why they didn't take him to the hospital? Why would they call a non-doctor to come to a scene first?
And when the non-doctor got there, they said the man was joking.
Yeah. And so look at that kind of story. And the story that Dr. Du was talking, it was not Tweah, or Norris Tweah. This is the first time I heard Tweah speak on this matter. It was not Norris Tweah that said, oh, the man fell, or he wanted to go pee and he missed his way, he fell. It was not Norris Tweah that told that story. That story was coming from those who were on the scene. Okay?
Right. But they call him, so he should be questioned too. Let's conclude, Mr.
He can be questioned. He can be questioned. But the primary place to begin is those who are on the scene and who made a call.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. Let's go to our next caller here, Mr. Flomo Livingstone. Flomo.
Yeah, hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to speak on this Samuel 12 thing. Well, how so you're telling me the day Samuel 12 want to go to sleep over to his brother's place? Is that same night the incident took place? And he called his brother. He went over. They were not able to call the police. They were not able to call ambulance.
I don't think they have ambulance in Liberia, right? Do they?
2019?
You do, Dennis. They do have ambulances.
Ebola, we have more ambulances to use. Ebola
this guy, Thomas Fala or the other guy.
Yeah. So my point is, the night Samuel 12 want to go speak to the brother who is 5 minutes away from Barton, Nyeswa. That's the same night he fell on the second floor.
Yeah,
the maybe hours that for that.
No, we can draw that conclusion that two things can happen side by side. They don't have to correlate. But go ahead.
That's what I'm saying. I agree, Mr. John. But my point, I'm suspicious that night he happened to call his brother. He went there and took the man, put in the car, and he called the doctor. I don't know what he mean,
the health minister.
Okay, the health minister. Okay, thank you for the correction. The health minister, and he took him to the GFP. There's no record. I don't know if they took him to the GFP or whatever they took him. And that thing just happened. There's no police report. Police will not call to do anything, something like that. They just call because they're government officials. They just call among themselves.
Thank you.
Okay, just want for that period of time. So someone knows something about that.
No, you can read that. You can jump to that conclusion. But thank you.
I'm alleging again. You know something.
Okay. The same way they are alleging, they say Boakai know about the speaker removal, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Social allegation. All right. Thank you. Let me bring on Bendu. Bendu, you live.
Yeah, hi, Dennis. How are you guys?
Doing excellent.
Yeah, thank you for the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to talk on the three topics that I heard you talk about. First thing is the $15,000 issue of hoisting the speaker.
Yeah.
The speaker might not be a good person. He might have all kind of shady behaviors. But we know that when there is a corruption, the corruption supersedes everything, especially when you paying people to get their vote. I think that should be a serious issue and it needs to be investigated. Maybe we know that the president is a different. The presidential thing is a different branch of government, equal, but they need to bring an outside investigator. This is about time that we already hit the nail on the head. We want to fix our country. You can't pay somebody to buy that vote. That is wrong and that is a crime. So they need to investigate it. So maybe they need to bring an outside investigator. When it comes to the Samuel 12 thing, I think, like somebody said, you need to keep quiet. Once the police have called you, maybe this is Liberia, anything goes. But we know that when a crime is being investigated and is in court, you can't just discuss it. That discussing it is tampering with evidence. So if I were him, in his best interest, they need to keep quiet. But when it comes to the healthcare system in Liberia, I heard what the doctor talked about when he went to GFK. My brother was found unconscious in his room. They called 2 nurses. And you will not believe it. The 2 nurses did not touch his body. Instead, they ran outside. And like, oh no, the team was seeing that we can't touch it. They actually did not even touch his body. Eventually, he died. By the time they called us, his body was still in the room. Our auntie was there. Our stepmom was sitting out there, and nobody touched his body to even say, let's check his pulse. Let's do CPR. Let's give him some chance to life. No, so they will bury him. And as far as the same-sex marriage, I think we need to leave it up with the church. The Methodist church needs to deal with it. When it comes to our individual or our country, we got a serious issue. And we got a country that every sector in our country, money that come there is not coming from us. Everything is being subsidized. So the people who pay us money, they control what we do. If we don't want to tell us to make same-sex marriage legal in our country, let us refuse that money. But we know in this country, if money is coming from here, we got gays and lesbians that pay taxes. And so if they're taking our taxpayer money to Liberia, we have to respect their cause. And if they have anybody in Liberia who is a gay and lesbian, There's no reason why the people should be stoning them, beating them, and trying to hurt them. So if the people say, okay, we're not going to send our money to Liberia, we know America will say something because America catch you where it hurts most. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Those are all the callers we have. At this time, we have 10 minutes to close. Let's go to our Tabata session. Any Tabata during the week? Tabata is any nonsense. If you are from the Southeast, you know what I'm talking about. Dr. Dukley, what's your Tabata of the week?
Well, Tabata today, the house. The house turned into the Animal House or whatever it is, the movie, the scandals, and then the conspiracy theories, and then the lies, and then all this money floating around. 49 people receiving 15,000. That's like $750,000 or something. And then if they get it, or that 10,000 when they finish it, you go into $1,200,300. So much money in the country, and teachers still don't get paid. So yeah, the Tabata of the house. Yes, the Tabata today was the house in general.
Dr. Pearson, what's your Tabata of the week?
Tabata is that we're seeing where they want the 15 million of budget expenditure, some of that money going. We know where they're going. That is we know where the money is going now. That all budget expenditure, we know where it's going.
Mr. Salih, what's your Tabata of the week?
Yeah, that the president has to stay home to govern. Look, my Tabata is this large-scale money laundering culture. That was just a warm-up. Marvin Cole. I may be getting his name wrong. Marvin Cole. Marvin Cole. What he said was just a testament of what happens in the country. It wasn't that was the first time I've heard that. Probably seen something close to that. These guys walk around with millions of dollars on their persons, in their vehicles, in their homes. Okay, this real money laundering culture in our country. To think that, like you were, I think Dr. Du was saying, or maybe it was you, Dennis, that the country is in this kind of need and shambles, and just few individuals are going around with large cash of money. And can just do whatever they want, to me it's complete Tabata. Knowing that these are people who, a lot of whom came from the traditional side, they were born in villages, they understand suffering and needs, and yet they come to Monrovia, all of a sudden they become these millionaires and just do whatever they want. That's a sorry state of affairs.
Thank you. My Tabata is, how the person who can read and write are the person you go to give you book medicine. That's what I saw when President Boakai, who people can't eat, they eat. We used to call it 001 when we were in Nigeria. No breakfast, no, or 0010. You just eat one meal. The other one is zero, right?
Yeah, breakfast.
And then you go somewhere to tell them about good food. When there's no good food in your country, I think that was complete Tabata. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's Tough Talking Thursday tonight. We are talking tough. Please don't forget, my Peking in Guinea is suffering. Hassan Jallo, I hosted him here twice. He's an advocate, especially for his Fulani community. Born and raised in Liberia, he's having a hard time. People try to discount or not accept his Liberianness. That was his campaign. Now he got chronic hepatitis B. He's raising $1,000. Last week when we put out the fundraiser, we came up with $300. So if you can help, the cash app is on the screen. It's also Zelle 651-399-1614. Since I hosted him, he's been on his advocacy, but his condition really broke my heart, and he reached out to us if we can help raise some money. He's in Guinea now because he couldn't be treated in Liberia, in a place called Kindia, north of 40 miles north of Conakry, where he's getting treatment. So if you can chip in, there's no amount that is too small. So please chip in and let's help save his life. 651-399-1614. We've raised $300 so far, and the target is $1,000. Gentlemen, thank you so much for tonight. At this time, we're going to go around the room for your closing comment. Let me start with Dr. Pearson. 1 minute.
Yeah, I just want to say to President Boakai, we want President Boakai to succeed, because when President Boakai succeeds, the country succeeds. I would like to see him stay in the country more often and then dedicate some other travels to others and forget the DSA. Those who are in the area that the travel is more pertaining to should be the ones traveling. Any diplomatic missions should be reinforced by our diplomatic staff. And last but not the least, now we know where the 15 million budget expenditure going to. It going to people walking around with thousands of dollars in their hands around the Capitol building to remove Speaker Koffa. And we think this is wrong, and Liberian people should stand up against it and make sure that doesn't happen.
Thank you. Let me read. Flomo Levinson said, Matabata is judge. We are living in Italy and accusing the current government of trying to remove the speaker. I don't know. You got to be in Labrador to say, or if you are living in what? Belgium? Sam Wallow said the Tabata is the ongoing effort to ignore the amazing first year of accomplishment President Boakai has achieved. A record first year of accomplishment by a Liberian president.
Somebody
asked me whether Sam Wallow the real president. I said, yeah.
That mean an AI.
I said I know my sister. The sister live with me here in Atlanta. But Mr. Salif, you're closing, sir.
Thank you, Dennis, for the opportunity to always come here to contribute to our country in our own little ways we can to uplift the conversations and to try to analyze some of the complexities of what we're dealing with back home. I think there's no denying, there's no gainsaying here that Liberia has complex challenges that any leader, can face and deal with. But what I have been encouraging lately is to speak positive of the country, to encourage ourselves that we can get out of this quagmire, that we can be creative and innovative. It may seem impossible. Incrementally, we can get there. And one way to do so is to advance solutions, to suggest solutions, which is why we started Liberia Governance and Justice Initiative, LGJI. Join us, go to our website. We've started working in Liberia. We have an office here in Liberia. We're going to uplift Liberia, write reports, study the governance system and the justice area, and compete with the World Bank and the State Department that issue report. We want our reports to be cited as well. We want to promote the good image of the country and to link the diaspora Liberians to Liberia and Liberia to the diaspora. Other countries, they speak very nicely about their country and countries, and then they encourage they hold the leaders accountable. Yes, that I can't run away from it, right? Even your friends, when they're making mistakes, you tell them, you encourage them, but advance solutions. I don't believe in just criticizing. I believe in pointing out mistakes and missteps and suggesting ideas and actions to correct those things. So thank you for always allowing us to participate and contribute to Liberia.
Thank you. It's good you end up with that one, because there's no amount of positive speaking going to do it. Then you turn out to be like the Pentecostal people, right? I receive it. And there's no amount of receiving it going to put food on your table. Dr. Dukley, you're closing.
Thank you, Dennis, and thank you, Dr. Pearson and Ahmed, for a good show tonight. And I think we touched a lot of subjects. And I would like to start with what Ahmed said, in a blip. He said President Boakai should stay home to govern. That's very profound, Ahmed Salif. I have never expected you to say something like that.
No, I didn't. I said as the Tabata.
I got your point.
They say President Boakai must stay home in order to govern. That you must.
He disagreed with that, though, Dr. Douglas.
Yeah.
Oh, you disagree with that?
Yeah, it was Pearson who said he should stay home to govern. Dr. Mr. Salif said no, he doesn't. He can be.
So I was taking a swipe at PS in passing onto my Tabata.
Ah, okay. You see, I thought you were being more realistic than. But anyway, no, I think it was a good show. I think issues. I think, as the lady said, Tweah, you got so many court issues. You under suspicion and all of that. This is the time you sit quietly. You work behind the scene with your lawyers and opinion leaders, but you stay out. You don't go out and expose yourself every day. It is shameful what is happening at the House, but it's a reflection of our national politics. Whatever they're doing is what is going on in our national politics. So either we do, if we like it or not, we have to change the system. And this is what we always talk about. How do you change it? How do you change the mindset? Political parties play a big role in any country, but our politicians, political parties, after elections, you don't see them. You don't see them talking to young people to conscientize them. You don't see them organizing seminars, having debates. No, they go to sleep for 5 years. And then they get up one day and say, oh, you forgot me, I'm the new president. So to change the culture we have now, the bad culture, you need strong leadership, somebody who will look people in the eyes and say, you know what, we're tired of this, you can't do it. But we still have this big man culture in Liberia. Once you're a big man, people say, oh yeah, you're a big man, and then nobody wants to touch you. I don't know, it's come from the past that once you were a big man, unless the president goes against you, nobody can touch you. So I hope we will change all those things and then make people account for their actions. And if the House people want to remove Fonati, he's my good friend. I would say, you know what, if 47 people out of 72 go up on paper and sign that they want to remove me, I would say, you know what, take your job. Can I get my contracts? Can I keep my contracts? I'll give you a job and do something else.
Thank you. Thank you again for your time. I want to thank our viewers for watching. Always focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. My friend Theodore Hodge asks, are you making inroads in Liberia? No, in Liberia, the system is corrupt. When we try to go there, they want us to pay arm and leg. People offer free space to those who will cry their cry. All right, there was someone who was pursuing. He has money already. We can get on a radio station. He rather give it to his people of his ethnic group or people who will be on the same political party. And we at Focus on Liberia, we're not going to play that. We even tried the History Channel to be in a local radio. They can't do it. And so maybe it's time to build our own radio station. So please join us. We are all Liberians is the song we're going to close with at this time. Thank you for watching. Good night and God bless you.
We are Liberians.